What if the backlash has already begun behind the scenes before the most dramatic moment of the next Love and Hip Hop season even airs? Fans are currently preparing for what may be one of the darkest and most awkward encounters the franchise has ever hinted at, according to reports that are making the rounds. The rumors alone are enough to stun the fan base, even though nothing is being verified as true. According to sources, there was a moment so strong that the entire energy change was felt by those on set before even a single episode was broadcast on television. These accounts claim that long-standing mistrust, wounded egos, and unresolved past have been the main causes of the tensions between Kirk Frost and Mendeecees. What is being described is a situation when emotions are said to get out of control rather than just another heated confrontation for cameras. Reports said voices were raised, tempers erupted, and the room went silent when a bombshell accusation was purportedly made out loud. The claim strikes deep, directly into marriage, fidelity, personal boundaries that are rarely breached so publicly, leaving supporters astonished by the statements being repeated in these tales. The way insiders depict Kirk's mental condition at these purported times is what makes this story even more unsettling. He is shown as being overwhelmed, angry, and hurt, as if years of frustration suddenly burst out. The ferocity of his response, according to people close to production, made everyone apprehensive because they weren't sure if the incident would stay verbal or escalate into something far worse. Mendeecees, who is at the center of it all, is reported to have first remained eerily composed, a response that only served to stoke the flames and heighten the sense of danger. If these allegations are accurate, fans are already discussing what this would imply for the season. Some think this might develop into a pivotal plot that shatters relationships and compels the characters to take sides. Others are wondering how far the play will go when such serious charges are even alluded to. One thing is certain: if the rumors are even partially accurate, this may be a game changer. And viewers are left wondering how close this said moment came to crossing an irreversible line as more information gradually come to light. According to these stories, the day starts with a strange tension that nobody can quite put their finger on. Arriving viewers anticipate a standard filming schedule, light talk, and perhaps a few arguments, nothing unusual for a conflict-driven reality show. However, many in attendance later report that the atmosphere feels heavier than usual, as if an unsolved issue is present in the room before anyone even speaks. Kirk Frost is characterized as being agitated, moving around more than normal, preoccupied, and intermittently losing focus during conversations. Mendeecees, on the other hand, is described as appearing composed and perceptive, leaning back and listening more than he speaks. This might be interpreted by some as quiet annoyance and by others as confidence. The conversation that reportedly precedes the altercation does not begin with shouting or accusations, according to the chatter. It starts off with a general discussion about loyalty, trust, and how ignoring problems from the past never truly goes away. According to reports, someone remarks about how being famous makes friendships and marriages more difficult, and how boundaries can get hazy when cameras are constantly there. It's said that one comment has a greater impact than anticipated. According to reports, Kirk's body language shifts nearly instantly. The room senses that something personal has been stirred as his tone sharpens and his shoulders tense. According to others who know Kirk, he begins talking about how he feels ignored and mistreated. He doesn't name anyone at first, but it's obvious that this is something that has been growing inside of him. His remarks are reported to be filled with hurt and frustration, implying that he feels some boundaries were breached behind his back. Mendeecees listens intently, which seems to exacerbate the situation. Some see his silence as restraint, while others see it as contempt. Kirk allegedly feels ignored and that his worries are being disregarded the longer he remains silent. Kirk is supposed to press harder as the discussion goes on, wondering what loyalty actually means when friendships and personal connections cross. He apparently makes references to things he has observed over time, minor incidents that, up until now, did not make sense. Later on, folks in the room talk about feeling uncomfortable because they think the conversation is veering off course. Whispers are said to start among the group, with some attempting to ascertain who Kirk is actually referring to, and others hoping the subject will shift before things get out of hand, when Kirk purportedly stops using ambiguous language. The tension peaks. His arguments become sharper, his voice increases, and an accusation is abruptly made public, according to sources. The assertion being repeated in reports is so serious that the room is said to go utterly silent. Everyone stops talking, stops, moving and glances at Mendeecees to see how he will react. The very notion of such an accusation is said to be sufficient to change the entire energy of the situation. Even while nothing is being verified as reality, Mendeecees allegedly does not react at all for a few seconds. Witnesses report feeling as though everyone is holding their breath due to the oppressive quiet. His look is described as tense but controlled, indicating that he is carefully considering his next course of action. When he does respond, it is with a strong denial rather than yelling. His tone is stated to be aggressive and defensive, making it obvious that he considers the claim as not only incorrect, but reckless. He supposedly wonders why something so serious would be discussed in public, particularly in front of cameras. Kirk's response to this denial is characterized as strong and passionate. Those close to him assert that he doesn't back down and maintains that his emotions weren't unexpected. He apparently speaks of betrayal, embarrassment, and the sorrow of feeling silly for trusting the wrong people. His voice is said to vacillate between hurt and rage, resulting in a moment that feels genuine and intensely intimate rather than staged for broadcast. Some attendees later report seeing a man who is having trouble regaining control and feels trapped by his own suspicions. As the exchange grows louder, the physical distance between the two apparently becomes a worry. Mendeecees is reported to stand and move closer, not violently but purposefully, indicating that he will not permit his character to be questioned without an answer. Kirk refuses to back down, and their body language is characterized as hostile rather than conversational. According to reports, those in their immediate vicinity start to stand close to them, not touching either man but obviously prepared to step in if their remarks escalate into more. The group as a whole responds in obvious ways. Some seem surprised, others uneasy, and some don't know where to look. The stories state that when people attempt to comprehend what they are hearing, whispers spread swiftly. At that point, alliances start to feel shaky as people determine in private who they believe in, or at the very least who they are willing to openly support. The accusation alone is sufficient to sow mistrust that is hard to ignore even while nothing is being verified, according to reports. Kirk keeps talking, restating some of his assertion and implying that there were indicators he had previously missed. He purportedly discusses incidents that, looking back, seem suspicious, portraying his response as the product of ongoing. The tension does not go away when the discussion cools down a little, rather it just becomes quieter and more unpleasant. Later, those in attendance report an odd silence that descends upon the space, as though nobody knows how to proceed without. Making matters worse, Kirk stands for a moment more, breathing erratically and staring straight ahead rather than at anyone in particular. Now, silent Mendeecees retreats just far enough to make room, but not far enough to imply a retreat. Everyone notices that tiny movement because it conveys restraint rather than defeat. According to the accounts, Kirk starts talking again, but this time at a slower pace. His rage is now keen and purposeful rather than explosive. He discusses trust and how betrayal never makes a big announcement. Rather, he contends that it manifests itself in minute adjustments and nuanced moments that only become clear when everything is considered. His tone is characterized as wounded rather than hostile, as though he is attempting to both blame and defend himself. even while they are still uneasy about the gravity of what is being conveyed. Some persons in the room are said to have a brief moment of pity. Mendeecees' countenance is taut as he listens with his arms folded. Witnesses claim that, as Kirk goes on, his jaw tightens, expressing annoyance at being discussed rather than addressed. When he finally responds, his voice is calm but forceful. According to reports, he disputes the notion that suspicion should ever be regarded as fact, particularly when spoken in public. He asks why emotions are being portrayed as facts and states unequivocally that he will not permit his name to be tarnished by rumors. Kirk's impassioned speech contrasts strongly with his cool answer, further widening the gap between them. At this point, other people in the room start speaking out to calm down the situation rather than take sides. Some advise Kirk to think about the consequences of his comments and the harm they might do in the future. They warn him that it is impossible to completely retract allegations made in front of cameras. They are said to be speaking in a cautious, almost imploring tone, as though they are attempting to stop him from going somewhere he could come to regret. Although the environment is momentarily improved by these actions, fundamental conflict remains. As these voices reach Kirk, he seems conflicted. Those in attendance claim that his confidence briefly falters, exposing doubt beneath the rage. His remarks start to convey dread just as much as anger, fear of embarrassment, fear of being mistaken, anxiety of having his private life scrutinized in public. He talks about the strain of constantly being watched and how that strain amplifies all suspicions. This vulnerability changes the mood once more, making the space feel more emotionally charged but less erratic, instead of showing pity. Mendeecees responds to this change with obvious annoyance. He reiterates that emotions, no matter how intense, do not equate to proof while shaking his head slightly in disbelief. According to reports, he stresses that once an accusation is made public, particularly on a platform this scale, the harm extends well beyond the individuals involved. His comments are said to bear the weight of experience, implying an awareness of how stories develop and how hard it is to reverse them. Some people in the room can relate to this viewpoint, while others are still unsure. As this back and forth persists, the group dynamic starts to break down subtly. Some people have a stronger affinity for Kirk and use body language and quick affirmations to provide silent encouragement. Mendeecees is encouraged to remain composed and disengaged by others who stand closer to him. These tiny motions are detected. Later, witnesses claim that this was the point at which they became aware that alliances were subtly changing, not by outspoken statements, but rather through natural responses to the tension that was developing. Exhaustion becomes increasingly apparent over time. The fire in Kirk's eyes fades into anger and sadness as his shoulders drop a little. He seems to be persuading himself as much as anybody else by repeating portions of his charge, albeit at a lower volume. This recurrence keeps the tension alive, preventing the situation from totally settling. Mendeecees gives less and fewer answers, preferring to remain silent rather than engage in further discussion. Some perceive his hesitation to participate further as maturity, while others see it as avoidance. Throughout, security is on guard and stays close by without intervening. Their emotional instability keeps them tense, but the absence of physical contact prevents them from getting involved. The argument seems to be on hold rather than concluded, as if the room is suspended. The energy is irrevocably changed. Although conversations among people who are not directly involved resume carefully. Even neutral subjects have a hint of unease, and laughing feels wrong. The aftermath starts practically immediately after the immediate confrontation is over. As people digest what they think they just saw, murmurs start to circulate. There are unanswered questions that swirl in silence. Some question whether Kirk has information he hasn't disclosed, while others think the claim is purely motivated by emotion. The uncertainty itself becomes a source of stress, leaving everyone apprehensive about what might surface next. After this, Kirk is said to move away from the center of the room and retreat a little. He is said to have a complex attitude that combines regret and resistance. Those who are close to him later claim that he appears torn between expressing his emotions in public and acknowledging the possible repercussions of doing so. Mendeecees, on the other hand, keeps a low profile, engages with people infrequently, and refrains from talking about the incident. His composed demeanor implies a deliberate attempt to keep the issue from getting worse. The confrontation's after effects become unavoidable as filming progresses. Relationships seem tense and trust seems brittle. People are conscious of the possibility that what they say could be interpreted in light of the recent events. So they choose their words carefully. Even moments unconnected to the dispute feel influenced by its presence, as if an invisible weight now hangs over every contact. The stories describe this moment not as a resolution, but as the beginning of a deeper fracture. The emotional harm has already been done, even though nothing has been established or resolved. The charge hangs in the air, changing relationships and views. Those who were there subsequently describe feeling uneasy as they left the scene, knowing that the consequences of this exchange are just getting started, regardless of the facts that the stress doesn't go away as the day goes on. Instead, it permeates everyone in the room and subtly, but unmistakably, changes. Kirk grows increasingly frustrated as he realizes how his remarks could be interpreted. According to accounts, he finds it difficult to accept that his emotional reality may be reduced to rumors and headlines. He is troubled by the idea of followers, friends, and family developing opinions based on pieces of a moment. However, he doesn't seem to be willing to completely back down or soften his position, which leaves the issue in a state of unresolved tension. As the atmosphere thickens, Mendeecees encounters his own difficulties. As the whispers persist and the attitudes around him change, he finds it more and more difficult to remain composed. Those who are close to him observe tiny indicators of stress, such as a tightening of his posture, shorter responses, and a sharper focus on avoiding pointless conversation. He allegedly feels that continuing to interact will simply exacerbate the harm, but his decision to remain silent doesn't help. Rather, it permits unbridled speculation. The remainder of the gang finds it difficult to adjust to this new situation. Some try discreet check-ins, providing assistance without overtly taking sides. Others opt for distance in an effort to stay out of a scenario that seems too intimate and unstable. These actions, albeit subtle, begin to modify the social landscape, creating noticeable gaps where intimacy once existed. Moments that used to be lighthearted now seem strained, as though laughing may be viewed as improper. Another level of strain is added behind the scenes by the awareness of cameras. The knowledge that there is footage someplace alters everyone's behavior. Even though the altercation is being recounted as an alleged moment, people are aware of how situations may appear after they air, how reactions may be altered, and how stories may be constructed. Every interaction feels contrived because of the ongoing conflict. This awareness causes between self-defense and sincerity, according to reports. Kirk's emotional state varies around this time. Sometimes he seems unwavering, defending his emotions, and voicing his annoyance at others' reluctance to acknowledge his suffering. At other times, uncertainty arises, and he appears burdened by the thought that he might have caused more confusion than clarity. Instead of making explicit declarations, this back and forth is conveyed subtly through body language and tone changes, which heightens the impression that nothing is resolved. When the subject comes up, Mendeecees still asserts his denial, but he does it infrequently. He stays away from lengthy explanations, reiterating that the truth doesn't have to be shouted in order to be true. This strategy elicits conflicting responses, deepening the rift within the group. Some people believe he is innocent because of his composure. Others find it frustrating when there is no emotional reaction, which makes them yearn for answers that never materialize. The strain increases as reports of the purported altercation start to spread outside of this small circle. Whispers become presumptive realities as fans begin to build conclusions based on inadequate information. Online debates grow louder, with passionate reactions on both sides. Everyone's stress level rises as a result of this outside noise seeping back into the surroundings. The issue feels even more urgent and unpredictable because of the perception that public opinion is already developing. Even in the absence of confirmation, the filming itself starts to suffer from the intensity. Conversations are more guarded, scenes are darker, and exchanges are less impromptu. People are slower to trust and quicker to take offense. Everything feels less forgiving and more serious now that the emotional atmosphere has changed. What once felt like entertainment now feels entwined with actual consequences, blurring the barrier between on-camera drama and personal reality. By the end of this stretch, it is evident that the conflict has changed the course of the season. Stories begin to circle around the unresolved tension even when it is not overtly acknowledged. The charge lurks in the background, influencing both interactions and perceptions. The damage feels real, even if nothing has been established or fixed. People present have a lingering sense that something essential has changed, and that whatever follows next will be influenced by this event, whether anyone is ready for it or not. The emotional fallout from the purported altercation doesn't go away as filming goes on. Rather, it permeates every exchange like an unsaid presence. People now walk differently, more conscious of their surroundings and the potential impact of their remarks. Even seemingly casual times are tense, as though everyone is aware that the equilibrium has already been upset. In social situations, Kirk seems more reserved. He no longer leads discussions, but he is obviously paying attention, taking in looks and behaviors that convey more than words could. Mendeecees maintains his composure, but his distancing seems deliberate, a barrier of protection rather than apathy. Kirk is later described by people close to him as being conflicted during this time. He makes an effort to appear in control, yet there is always tension beneath the surface, even if his emotional outburst was motivated by genuine anguish. He allegedly finds it difficult to accept the possibility that it may have opened doors that cannot be closed. He is troubled by the possibility that his personal uncertainties would be made public. At the same time, he feels constrained by his own words and is unclear of how to proceed without coming out as weak or doubtful. This internal struggle manifests subtly as hesitancy, delayed reactions, and obvious distractions. Mendeecees, meanwhile, faces the burden of living under a shroud of suspicion he says is unfair. The inference persists even in the absence of repeated direct allegations, influencing how people relate to him. He is treated with guarded curiosity by some and careful courtesy by others. Even though it is never publicly stated, he observes the change. As time goes on, it gets harder to keep your cool, not because you're angry, but because you have to stay composed in a judgmental environment all the time. The strain starts to affect the group as a whole. Once solid connections now appear shaky, put to the test by silence and unanswered questions. People start picking their companions more carefully, favoring those they can rely on to keep them out of awkward situations. Every contact feels linked to the unresolved tension, making it more difficult to establish neutral ground. The environment has shifted in a way that is impossible to ignore, even for those who make an effort to avoid it. Reactions from those outside of the immediate group begin to further impact the situation as rumors continue to spread. Enthusiasts, working solely with scraps of knowledge, begin generating strong conclusions. Some people feel a great deal of sympathy for Kirk, seeing his emotional reaction as proof of real pain. Others support Mendeecees and condemn the notion of making grave claims without supporting evidence. The strain is increased by this widening gap on the internet, which makes the issue seem bigger than the individuals involved. Everyone's emotional stakes are raised by the knowledge that millions may eventually weigh in. Kirk is said to become more conscious of how his comments are perceived. Another level of annoyance is the knowledge that his suffering can become the subject of discussion and headlines. He feels misinterpreted, as though the complexity of his feelings is being reduced to a single story. This sense of solitude compounds his internal conflict, leaving him unclear whether to clarify his sentiments or retreat farther. He is trapped in an emotional limbo because neither choice feels secure. Mendeecees is still reserved in his assertion of his stance. When the subject comes up, he gently restates his denial and declines to have a long conversation. His activities are motivated by his conviction that, in the end, consistency would speak louder than confrontation. But this strategy doesn't protect him from stress. Those who are close to him observe symptoms of exhaustion, times when the effort to maintain composure is apparent. Even if he keeps his composure on the outside, the continual fear of being observed and evaluated wears him down. Filming itself starts to suffer from the absence of finality. Scenes that would typically feel impromptu suddenly feel planned as actors consider the possible outcomes of their response. Instead of directly addressing delicate subjects, talks avoid them, which fosters an environment where avoidance becomes the norm. Instead of bringing about peace, this lets stress fester silently, unaddressed and unabated. Ultimately, Kirk and Mendeecees find themselves in the same settings again, albeit their contacts remain minimal. When they do acknowledge one another, it is courteous but aloof, characterized by constraint rather than warmth. Despite their apparent awareness that such clarity may never materialize, neither seems eager to resume the debate in the absence of it. This impasse, which affects scenes even when neither man talks, turns into one of the season's defining undercurrents. Beyond the initial disagreement, there is an emotional cost. The group's patience becomes thin, and little arguments seem more weighty than they used to. Vulnerability feels dangerous, and trust becomes brittle. It seems as though the prior encounter has lowered the threshold for conflict since people are quicker to take offense and slower to forgive. The environment feels more serious, less forgiving, and far more careful than before. It becomes evident over time that everything has changed as a result of the purported moment. Loyalty has been subtly tested, relationships have changed, and perceptions have evolved. The influence is evident even in the absence of proof of what actually occurred, whether acknowledged or not. The accusation and the responses to it have caused a rift that still affects every relationship by the end of this stretch. Everyone in attendance understands that nothing will go back to how it was. The issue is still unsolved, looming over the group like an unanswered riddle. Whatever the reality, there are already tangible emotional repercussions. The season proceeds, but it does so in the shadow of this purported confrontation, bringing with it a tension that never goes away and a feeling that some lines, once approached, leave enduring effects regardless of how quietly things seem to go on. One thing is evident from what you have just heard. The situation is far from straightforward, and the consequences are only getting started. These kinds of reports don't go away quietly, particularly when they include loyalty, trust, and reputations that have been developed over many years in the public view. The gravity of the charges and responses detailed has already changed the season's tone in a way that cannot be disregarded, even in the absence of proof. What was once just another plot point now seems like a pivotal moment that might change how viewers perceive each character and redefine relationships. You are left with unanswerable questions as a viewer. Were these feelings solely motivated by pressure and mistrust? Or is there more going on here that hasn't yet come to light? Did this purported altercation do irreversible harm? Or did it uncover long-standing fissures? A story that feels incomplete and intensely personal is made more complex by each response, pause, and quiet moment. Here is where your perspective matters. You have witnessed the rapid escalation of events such as these and the formation of public opinion long before the complete picture becomes apparent. Do you think that in situations like this, restraint speaks more than unbridled emotion? Do you think that just by making such claims public, boundaries were broken? Or was this an explosion that was bound to happen? your interpretation contributes. To the continuation of these discussions, make sure to support the channel if you want to hear every new report as it comes out and keep informed as this story develops. If this breakdown helped you understand the tension behind the headlines, please like the video, subscribe to avoid missing future updates, and enable notifications to be updated as new information becomes available. Above all, let us know what you think in the comments. Let everyone know where you stand. Because in circumstances like these, every point of view adds to the story.